Welcome back to the ArrayList series of videos. We're going to be taking a look today at how we can actually insert values into the arrays and the different ways of actually adding information to the list itself. Again, we're inside the ArrayList project, and so again, we have the angle brackets that we use with the types on that. We have right here, we're using a section with debug ducks, one of the custom types I've developed for class. We're using debug ducks. We can talk about one of the custom types we developed for class to actually answer questions because ducks are great and helpful, and we wanted to make sure we ask them questions so we can write better code. So we have that we can work with, and we also are working with the capital I integer, the wrapper class, so we can demonstrate some of them using that as well. So the first thing we have right here is we have the array list of debug ducks called ducks list, which is a new array list of debug duck. And I'm using the demo duck right here to add do debug duck, passing mixed quacks from, and their human is Zan. And I add that demo duck right there. Then I make a new demo duck as a new debug duck, and I have that default duck parameter then added to the list. And demo duck is a new debug duck again, passing it misquack and gen, and then misquack and gen, and then misquack and gen. So I'm passing three different named ducks as well as a default duck. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to add a duck at spot size, and I'm passing demo duck again as a new duck to the list, even though it's the same existing variable we're working with that. So we have right here the .add method where it puts it to the end of the list. And then I have the add of the specified parameter right here, which is 0. And so what that does is it puts that at the 0 spot, and everything that's in that spot gets moved over to the right one. So 0 becomes 1, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, all the way down through all the items that we're saying in that. And the other one we can do for the maximum possible value you can use with the .add is the .add at size, which actually adds it to the end, which is the only largest value you could possibly do because you can't add past the size because that would cause an index out of bounds exception. That'd be sad and scary. And we don't want that to happen. So we go ahead and add those ducks to the size, and we can check to see it right there. And so we have a string duck content is a duck list.toString, so I get the string value of that using the array list value for those. And so string display message passing it duck content. So I'm going to grab that information, show it to you here on the screen. And then a display message, we can go over all that code of adding ducks. We can demonstrate that. We also do this with the idea of using an integer. I'm going to demonstrate that using a little bit different way. So in array list of type integer, and again, we have to use the capital I integer because it's a wrapper class. So we want to put in a primitive value. You have to use the wrapper to go along with that. Take out my next video, one of my next videos, which actually talk more about wrapper classes. We'll go into more detail on that. But as you can see right here, I'm using for index is equal to 10, index is greater than or equal to 0, index minus minus, and I'm using numbers.add 0 to put that in. So it's going to take the number and put it at the front. And so it's going to put it always at the front, and everything is going to get shifted over to the right, going up by 1 as we go through. So I'm going to go numerically down through the list, but put them over to the front. So I'll have an in-order value of my list as I go through that. And so we'll display the message of the number of contents by passing it as a toString so we can see what's inside that and demonstrate what that's happening. So go ahead and run that code and see what happens with it. So as you can see, that first thing right here, we have the duck list right there. So we have duck misquack, the human is gen, questions are 0. The duck is mixquacks, and that human is Zan. The duck mixquacksers is human mammal, and then question 0. And then duck misquack, the human is gen. So we have 2 from the human gen at question 0. So we have misquack and misquack that both belong to that human. We can use that to go from there. And so that gives those at those spots. The next thing we have is that code again that we went over. We just demonstrated how we could do that. So we saw that we put those ducks into the list. We went through and put that in, one at 0, one at size. So we could actually add those spots to the list and go from there and display that information here to you so we could actually see that. Now that we're working with the integer type, you can see that even though we started off at 10 and worked our way down, because we used the add at 0, it put each thing at the 0 spot, then moved the next thing up. So it went 10, then went 9, 10, and then 8, 9, 10, then 7, 8, 9, 10. Because every time I added a new integer to the list, it put it at the front and pushed everything else to the right. So now I have 0 through 10 in my list in the correct order, even though I went backwards through to put them in because I added them in at that spot right there. So that's the way that we can actually go through and put them in a different order by using that and shifting it to go through that and make that happen. And just a quick review to see that, we can see we have that back at starting at 10, going greater than or equal to 0, going backwards by 1 each time, adding that to the structure so we can put that in as a display so we can actually show that to you and see how we can go through and do that. There's 2 ways to add to the list. We can either use the add with a single parameter, which puts the current item you're specifying and adds it to the end of the list. Even if it's already in there, it'll add it again because an array list doesn't care about duplicates. Or we can use the 2 parameter add, where the first parameter is the index you're putting in, which has to be a valid number from 0 up to and including size. And then it'll put that into that spot, and that was ever at that spot or beyond to get shifted by 1. So they keep their relative order in place. They're just shifted down the list so they have a different index up by 1 for each of those values. I hope this is a helpful way to go over and review review ArrayList, adding both different types of objects to that. Check out the other videos so you can see more about how to work with ArrayList and do more cool things. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Remember, ask your debug duck for questions. They're a great thing to use. Have a good day. See you next time. Bye-bye.